There's a quiet moment that exists between sleep and the start of the day. It's delicate, it's brief, and it holds a power that most people never notice, much less honor. For a woman, that moment is more than just the start of another day. It's a sacred pause, a doorway, and how she steps through it determines not only how she'll move through the next 24 hours, but how she will feel, respond, let, and live. Yet far too many women wake up already behind in tasks, behind in thoughts, behind in obligations. The alarm rings, and before her feet even touch the floor, she's already answering to a world that demands more from her than it gives back. Her heart is already racing, her mind already planning, her body already tense. She reaches for her phone, and in that single action, she hands her piece away before she's even had a chance to own it. This is the silent epidemic. Women waking up exhausted, not because they didn't sleep enough, but because they're carrying the weight of too many mornings that started in chaos, not clarity. But there's another way. A way that doesn't ask for more time, more effort, or more sacrifice. It only asks for presence. It asks for a decision. The decision to start the day not with the world's noise, but with her own stillness. Not with a scroll, but with a breath. Not with reaction, but with intention. When a woman reclaims the first hour of her day, something fundamental shifts inside her. She stops waiting for permission to feel calm. She stops apologizing for taking up space. She starts leading herself, and that leadership begins the moment she opens her eyes. This isn't about perfection. It's not about having a flawless morning routine filled with green juice, yoga, and productivity hacks. It's about reclaiming control. It's about waking up and saying, "Hey, before I give my energy to anything or anyone else, I will give it to myself." That can look different for every woman. For some, it's 5 minutes of silence. For others, it's stepping outside to feel the morning air on their skin. For others still, it's journaling, stretching, praying, or simply sitting with a warm glass of water. The action doesn't matter as much as the intention behind it. What matters is that she does it for her, and before the world asks for anything. Because when a woman begins her day with presence, her entire nervous system responds. Her breath slows, her heart rate evens out, her thoughts become clear, and her body, which often stores tension before she even notices it, begins to release its grip. It's not just a mental or emotional benefit. It's physical, measurable, transformative. There's science behind it, yes. Cortisol levels are highest in the morning, meaning the body is most reactive to stress during those first few hours. If a woman meets that stress with more stress, through emails, notifications, rushing, multitasking, her body remains on high alert. But if she meets that moment with calm, with rhythm, with conscious breath and slow movement, she sends a different signal to the body. She says, "We are safe, you're steady, you're in control." And safety is everything. Because when the body feels safe, it opens, it creates, it flows. When the body feels threatened, it shuts down, it holds on, it survives. Too many women are stuck in survival mode, not because life is too hard, but because their mornings are too reactive. They haven't had a moment to choose how they feel. The choice was made for them by external noise. But when you take that power back, even just for a few quiet minutes, you start to notice something extraordinary. The world doesn't fall apart because you paused. The people in your life don't vanish because you breathed before responding. In fact, everything gets better. You show up with more energy, more clarity, more grace. You don't just react to your day. You shape it. This shaping begins with simple practices, not routines, but rituals. The difference is intention. A routine is something you do. A ritual is something you honor. Maybe your ritual is placing your hand on your heart as soon as you wake up, just to remind yourself that you're alive, that your body is working, that your breath is steady. Maybe it's lighting a candle. Maybe it's stretching your arms above your head and saying thank you. Not for everything being perfect, but for being here, still trying. Maybe it's drinking warm water before anything else. Letting it move through your system, gently waking your organs and thinning your blood, giving your heart an easier start to its day. Or maybe it's 5 minutes of stillness, eyes closed, just noticing the sensation of being, not thinking, not planning, just being. Whatever it is, let it be yours. Let it be yours. Let it be non-negotiable. Let it be the anchor you return to every single morning, no matter what chaos exists outside your door. Because the truth is, life will always try to pull you into reaction. There will always be a message, a crisis, a demand. But none of those things deserve your first breath. Your first breath belongs to you, and when you claim it, you begin to remember who you are beneath the noise. You remember that you are more than what you do, more than who you take care of, more than what you accomplish. You are a woman, and that is already enough. It's in the first hour of the day that this remembering becomes possible. Because when the world is still quiet and the light is soft and the body hasn't yet been shaped by pressure, there's space to reset, space to ask yourself, what do I need today? And actually wait long enough to hear the answer. Some days that answer might be strength. Other days it might be softness. But you can't access either if you don't pause long enough to listen. The beauty is, this practice doesn't need to be dramatic. It doesn't need to be shared or posted or made perfect. It just needs to be yours. A silent promise you make to yourself that no matter how busy life gets, you will not abandon yourself at the beginning of the day. You will not rush past your own breath. You will not let the world dictate how you feel before you've even had a moment to feel anything at all. This is the habit that changes everything, not because it fixes life's problems, but because it strengthens the woman facing them. It gives her tools, clarity, calm connection that no external force can provide. And the more consistently she practices it, the more resilient she becomes. Not hard, but resilient. There's a difference. Hardness is brittle. It breaks. Resilience bends, but it does not break. And every morning she chooses to begin with presence. She adds another layer of resilience to her spirit. Eventually, this practice stops being something she has to remember. It becomes who she is. She is the woman who breathes before reacting, who honors herself before answering to others, who walks into her day grounded, not grasping, who wakes not in fear of what's to come, but in quiet confidence of who she is. This isn't about having more time. It's about having more truth. And the truth is, your life doesn't need to change overnight. You don't need to fix everything all at once. You only need to reclaim your mornings. One breath, one choice, one gentle return at a time. That's how everything else begins to change. From the inside out, starting with the first light of day. So much of a woman's energy, strength, and clarity is determined by something most people never even see. The quiet, repeated choices she makes every day about how she nourishes herself. Not just what she eats, but how she eats. Not just what's on her plate, but what kind of mindset she carries when she approaches it. We live in a time where there's so much noise around food. What to eat, what not to eat, how to lose weight, how to gain muscle, how to count calories, how to avoid them altogether. That somewhere along the way, we've forgotten the most important thing. Food is fuel, but not just physical fuel, emotional fuel, energetic fuel, hormonal fuel. Food doesn't just fill your stomach, it becomes your body. It becomes your blood, your brain, your bones, your hormones, your skin, your heart. And yet, so many women are walking through life undernourished, not because they don't have food, but because they've never learned how to eat in a way that truly supports them. Skipping breakfast, eating meals too fast, fueling with caffeine instead of nutrients, grabbing bites in between tasks, feeling guilty after eating. It's not just the food choices themselves that hurt the body, it's the relationship with food that drains a woman's vitality. The truth is your body isn't trying to punish you, it's trying to protect. And every time you feed it something nourishing, whether that nourishment comes in the form of a colorful plate of whole foods or the calm, mindful space you give yourself to eat without rushing, your body responds with gratitude. It doesn't take much, but it does take consistency. The body, especially the female body, is incredibly sensitive to rhythm, to regularity, to balance. Your hormones, your energy levels, your digestion, they all thrive on predictable care. And one of the most powerful ways to provide that care is to master the habit of daily nourishment. Not random eating, not restrictive dieting. Nourishment, that means eating not to shrink yourself, but to support yourself. Eating not to control your body, but to trust it. Eating because you love your body, not because you're trying to fix it. One of the most overlooked causes of stress in a woman's body is nutritional instability. When meals are inconsistent, when blood sugar is on a roller coaster, when digestion is burdened, your heart and your nervous system suffer. You feel it in your mood, the irritability, overwhelm, the exhaustion. You feel it in your sleep, the tossing, the overthinking, the fatigue that no amount of sleep seems to fix. You feel it in your energy, how some days you're on fire and other days you can't move. But most importantly, you feel it in your sense of inner peace. Because it's hard to feel calm when your body is constantly in a state of survival, craving, compensating, burning through reserves it doesn't have. And it all starts with what, how, and when you eat. So let's start with what. A woman's body craves real food, not chemicals, not processed emptiness, not extremes. It wants nourishment that's alive, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, healthy fats, clean proteins. That doesn't mean being perfect. It means being connected. It means noticing how different foods make you feel. Does that meal give you energy, or does it make you crash? Does it make you feel light and strong, or heavy and bloated? These are questions most people don't ask, because they're too disconnected from their plate. But the answers are there. The body speaks, always. Then there's how you eat. Do you sit down when you eat, or do you eat standing, scrolling, driving, multitasking? Do you chew your food, or do you rush through it like another thing to cross off the list? Do you breathe while you eat? Do you pause? These small details make a massive difference in how food is digested, how nutrients are absorbed, and how your nervous system reacts. Because digestion doesn't start in the stomach, it starts in the mind. When you're relaxed, your digestive enzymes function. When you're stressed, your body goes into fight or flight, and digestion shuts down. So you could eat the healthiest food in the world, but if you eat it in stress, your body can't fully use it. That's why mastering the state in which you eat is just as important as the food itself. Then we look at when you eat. So many women either skip meals or eat late into the night. This puts a strain on blood sugar balance, metabolism, and even sleep. One of the most supportive habits is to give your body reliable signals. A nourishing breakfast within an hour or so of waking. Something with protein, healthy fat, maybe a bit of fruit or fiber, tells the body you're safe, you're fed. You don't need to stress. This one act lowers cortisol, supports mood, stabilizes hunger throughout the day, and protects hormonal balance. Then, spacing your meals and giving yourself a gentle cut of time in the evening, not as a punishment, but as a way to allow your digestive system to rest, builds a rhythm your body can rely on. And women thrive when their bodies feel safe. But let's go even deeper, because food isn't just fuel. It's memory, it's comfort, it's culture. It's emotional, and for many women, food is also a source of guilt, control, or rebellion. That's why part of mastering nourishment is also healing your relationship with food. Letting go of shame, letting go of harsh rules, learning to trust yourself again. That begins by listening. What does hunger feel like for you? What does fullness feel like? What does emotional hunger feel like? And how is it different from physical hunger? These questions don't require books or plans. They require presence. And presence, when brought to food, becomes a sacred practice. A woman who eats with awareness eats with power. She stops fearing food. She starts respecting her body. She understands that food isn't the enemy. The enemy is disconnection. When she reconnects with her plate, her breath, her senses, she reclaims one of the most basic and profound acts of self-love. That kind of nourishment becomes a ripple effect. When you feed your body well, your mind becomes clearer, your energy steadies, you become more resilient to stress, you sleep deeper, your hormones align, your skin glows, you're not surviving anymore, you're living, you're thriving, you're creating from fullness, not from lack. And when women create from fullness, the entire world changes. Because a nourished woman has more to give, not because she's drained, but because she's overflowing. She doesn't snap in frustration. She speaks with clarity. She moves through life with grounded energy. She honors her needs without guilt. She becomes a mirror for others. And the people around her, her children, her partner, her friends, begin to shift too. Not because she told them to, but because her presence reminds them what it looks like to live from alignment. This is the power of nourishment. It's not a diet. It's a devotion, a practice, a quiet discipline. And once it becomes a habit, it's not something you have to force, it becomes who you are. You are the woman who eats not just to get through the day, but to strengthen herself for the life she's building. You are the woman who respects her hunger, who trusts her body, who listens to what she needs and provides it with grace. You are the woman who doesn't wait to crash before she chooses to nourish herself. She does it daily, deliberately, with love. And when you become that woman, When that habit becomes who you are, you realize that nourishment isn't just about food. It's about every choice, every boundary, every breath. Every time you say yes or no to something, it's all nourishment or depletion. You decide. So begin there. Begin there. Begin with your plate. Begin with your breath. Begin with the quiet decision to nourish your body, not just because you want to feel better, but because you deserve to feel better. That's the shift that changes everything, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. When you think about movement, most people imagine intensity, sweat, burn, pushing hard to reach some external goal. But for the woman who wants to live with strength, balance, and calm, movement isn't punishment, it's medicine. It's not something you force your body to do. It's something you offer your body because it deserves to feel good. Because it's been carrying you day in and day out, often without enough rest, enough acknowledgement, enough love. And the truth is, you don't need to spend hours in the gym or crush yourself with extreme workouts to be healthy. What you need is consistent, gentle, intentional movement practiced daily. That's the habit that brings your body back into balance and helps your heart, your mind, and your hormones find their rhythm again. The female body was never designed to be static. It was made to flow, to stretch, to breathe, to adapt. Yet so many women today are stuck, sitting at desks, glued to screens, holding tension in their necks, shoulders, and hips without even realizing it. Their bodies are tired, stiff, and overworked, not because they move too much, but because they move too little. And when the body is stagnant, the mind becomes restless, emotions get trapped. Stress lingers, pain builds, energy fades. But the moment you introduce movement back into your life, not with the intention of chasing some aesthetic ideal, but as a way to reconnect with yourself, something starts to shift. You feel more awake, more present, more grounded. You breathe deeper. Your heart beats in a rhythm that calms you. So, your spine feels more open. Your posture starts to reflect confidence, not collapse. These aren't small changes. These are signs of your body coming back to life. Even a short walk can do this. A walk in the morning light, a few stretches before bed, 5 minutes of dancing while your tea brews, 10 minutes of yoga while the world is still quiet. These moments add up, and what matters is not how long you move, but how often you return to that space where you and your body are no longer strangers, but allies, partners, friends. The key is to make this movement sacred, a time you don't rush, don't cancel, don't resent, a time you protect because you know what it does for you. You know it keeps your joints fluid, your breath smooth, your circulation healthy. You know it boosts your mood and helps clear away the fog that creeps in when stress starts piling up. You know it strengthens your core, not just physically but emotionally. Because a woman who moves with purpose becomes a woman who moves with purpose, becomes a woman who carries herself with intention too. This is especially important when it comes to hormonal balance. Gentle movement lowers cortisol. It improves insulin sensitivity. It helps regulate your cycle. It reduces inflammation. It supports your lymphatic system. These aren't things you can see on the outside, but they're the foundation of a woman's vitality. And what's powerful is that you don't need extreme effort to get these benefits. You need presence. You need movement that meets you where you are, whether it's a slow stretch, a walk in the sun, a short Pilates flow, or a few rounds of deep belly breathing while lying down. Some days you'll feel like moving more. Other days your energy will be quieter, and that's okay. Your body speaks. When you listen, when you honor what it needs, instead of forcing it to fit someone else's routine, you build trust. And when you trust your body, you stop fighting it. You stop resenting it. You begin to work with it. Think about how children move with joy, with curiosity, with freedom. They don't worry about calories or form or numbers. They move because it feels good. Somewhere along the way, we forget that. We turn movement into obligation, into pressure, into shame. But the truth is, the most healing kind of movement is the kind that reconnects you with that simple joy. That makes you feel alive in your own skin. That reminds you that you have a body not just to look a certain way, but to experience life fully. And what happens over time is beautiful. You become more aware of how you carry yourself. You notice when you're holding tension. You breathe more deeply. You sleep more soundly. You feel lighter. Not because the scale says so, but because your body isn't carrying so much stress, so much stillness, so much stuckness. You move through your day with more fluidity, more softness, more power. Not the kind of power that dominates, but the kind that supports, the kind that nourishes. And just like nourishment, movement becomes a ripple. It changes how you think, how you speak, how you show up in the world. It gives you a rhythm, a pulse you can return to, no matter how chaotic life gets, because that's what this is about. Not perfection, not performance, but returning again and again to the habits that remind you who you are and who you're becoming. That's the power of daily movement. It's not about doing more. It's about remembering that your body was made to move. And when you honor that truth with love, everything in your life begins to move with you. We live in a world that moves too fast, a world that praises productivity over peace, constant doing over intentional being. And somewhere in the rush of responsibilities, in the noise of deadlines, expectations, and comparisons, women forget to pause, they forget to breathe, they forget themselves. And what slowly builds, often unnoticed, is emotional exhaustion. The kind that doesn't show up like a fever, but reveals itself in the tightness in your chest, the shallow breath, the constant inner tension that feels like something's always just slightly off. It's the quiet heaviness you carry day to day, smiling, performing, checking boxes, while something deep inside you whispers that you need rest. Not just sleep, but space. Space to feel, space to release, space to return to your sense. This is why a daily habit of emotional reset is not just helpful, it's essential, especially for women who are so often conditioned to care for everyone else first, to hold it all together, to be strong, to keep pushing even when they're running on empty. But the truth is, you can't pour from a cup that's cracked at the bottom. And most women are cracked not because they're weak, but because they've been carrying too much for too long without stopping to repair. That repair doesn't come from a vacation once a year. It doesn't come from waiting until everything calms down. It comes from daily practices, little rituals that say, I matter too, my needs are valid, my emotions deserve space. Journaling is one of those rituals, not the kind where you have to write perfectly or say the right things, but the kind where you empty the mind onto paper, where the chaos inside has somewhere to land, where your feelings aren't judged or dismissed, but witnessed by the one person who truly needs to hear them. You. Even 5 minutes of writing what's on your heart can help untangle the knots inside you. It allows you to see your thoughts clearly rather than being consumed by them. It lets you notice patterns, to realize, I've been holding on to this for days. And when you name something, it loses its grip. When you write it down, you create distance between you and the emotion, and from that distance, healing can begin. But the reset doesn't have to end there. Stillness is a form of emotional medicine too. In the quiet moments, no screen, no noise, just breath, you start to hear yourself again. You realize how loud the world has been, how much you've been absorbing, how little of that noise actually belongs to you. Sitting in silence, even for just a few minutes, teaches your nervous system that it's safe to slow down. It tells your brain there's no emergency. You're allowed to rest. It lowers cortisol. It helps regulate your heart rate. It calms your digestion. And perhaps most importantly, it reconnects you to that inner voice that gets drowned out during the day. The one that knows what you really need. The one that reminds you who you are beneath the roles, the labels, the stress. And if you pair stillness with breath, you give your body a chance to reset from the inside out. Slow conscious breathing is like a signal to your entire system. For safe, you're home. It tells your body to shift out of fight or flight and into rest and repair. It tells your muscles to relax, your heart to beat gently, your mind to soften. Something as simple as a few rounds of box breathing, inhaling for 4 counts, holding, exhaling, and pausing, can do more for your emotional clarity than hours of overthinking ever will. Because breath brings you into the present, and that's where peace lives. Not in the past you can't change, not in the future you can't control, but in this moment, right now. Sometimes resetting emotionally also means releasing, and for many women that means crying, not because you're broken, not because you're weak, but because you're human. Emotions are energy. They need to move. When you suppress them, they don't disappear. They get stored in the body, in the jaw, in the chest, in the gut. And over time, that stored emotion becomes pain, anxiety, fatigue. But when you allow yourself to feel, to really feel, without judgment, you open the door to healing. Crying, shaking, breathing deeply, even just placing your hand on your heart and saying, "It's okay, I'm here with you," can be the emotional reset that lets the storm pass instead of keeping it locked inside. Another powerful way to reset emotionally is through gratitude. Not the performative kind where you pretend everything's perfect, but the quiet, intentional noticing of what's still beautiful. Even on hard days, gratitude shifts the lens through which you see your life. It doesn't erase your pain, but it adds perspective. It reminds you that alongside the chaos, there's also calm. That next to the stress, there's still love. That within the noise, there are moments of joy. A kind word, a warm drink, a deep breath, the softness of your blanket. When you train your brain to see these small gifts, your nervous system begins to relax. Your heart opens. You feel less alone. And that daily shift in perspective can completely transform how you carry yourself. But perhaps the most radical emotional habit a woman can cultivate is self-compassion. Okay, Zaza. Because the inner voice we carry often becomes the loudest source of pressure. That voice that says, you should be stronger, you should be better, you should be able to handle this. But you're not a machine, you're a woman. And being a woman means you feel deeply, you carry deeply, you love deeply. That is not a weakness, that is your power. But even power needs care. Even strength needs softness. Self-compassion means meeting yourself with kindness instead of criticism. It means saying, I'm doing my best even when things aren't perfect. It means not punishing yourself for being tired, emotional, or uncertain. It means letting yourself rest without guilt. And the more you practice this compassion, the more it becomes natural, not just in how you treat yourself, but in how you treat others. That's what emotional reset does. It interrupts the cycle of depletion. It reminds you that you don't have to earn rest, you don't have to justify stillness, and you don't need permission to feel. Your emotions are not a distraction from your path, they are the path. They are the signals that something within you needs attention, not avoidance. And the more you honor that truth, the more resilient you become. Not the kind of resilience that hardens, but the kind that softens and expands. The kind that holds space for everything. The joy, the grief, the uncertainty, the love, and still says, I choose to show up. And when emotional reset becomes a daily habit, it starts to shape your entire life. You stop reacting from a place of overwhelm. You start responding from a place of clarity. You stop seeking validation from outside. You start finding peace from within. You stop numbing and you start feeling, really feeling, really feeling. You become more attuned to what you need and more courageous in asking for it. Your relationships deepen. Your voice strengthens. Your boundaries sharpen. You become a woman who knows herself, not just what she does, but who she is. That's the kind of woman the world needs more of. That's the kind of woman your future self will thank you for becoming. And it starts with a habit. A simple sacred moment in your day where you come back to yourself, not to fix anything, but to remember that you are already whole, you are already enough, and you are allowed to rest.